Before its introduction to mainland Japan, karate in the Ryukyu kingdom primarily focused on kata training. In this video, however, we will introduce a man who brought these forms to life, applying kata to real combat and refining them through practical use, earning a reputation as the strongest fighter in Okinawan karate. We will also explore some lesser-known episodes from his life. Motobu Choki was born in 1871 in Shuri as the third son of the distinguished Motobu Udon family, one of the most prominent aristocratic houses of the Ryukyu kingdom. At the time, however, it was customary for less emphasis to be placed on the education of second and third sons, and Motobu is said to have received little formal schooling. Even so, from a young age he harbored a strong desire to become a powerful man. At the age of 11, the great master of Shurite, Itosu Anko, was invited to serve as a private tutor in karate, and Motobu trained under him alongside his elder brother, Motobu Choki. This period of study is said to have lasted 7 to 8 years. In addition to his formal instruction, Motobu never neglected his own independent training. He repeatedly struck the makiwara and used traditional training tools such as the chi-shi to further strengthen his already robust physique. Blessed with natural martial talent, his movements were light and agile, so much so that they were likened to a monkey swiftly climbing trees and leaping between branches. This earned him the widely known nickname Motobu no Saru, Motobu the Monkey. In his early 20s, Motobu began appearing in the entertainment districts at night, where he would challenge people indiscriminately in real combat situations, so-called kakidamishi, test fights. At a time when most karate practitioners emphasized kata training, this made him a highly unconventional figure. While some in the karate community disapproved of his behavior, by the age of 24 or 25, his reputation had spread so widely that it was said even small children knew his name. It is also said that despite drawing criticism, Motobu was able to study under leading figures of Okinawan karate, in part because of his noble background. Following the Ryukyu shogun in 1879, the Ryukyu kingdom was abolished and Okinawa prefecture was established, leading to deep divisions within Okinawan society over integration into Japan. Those who, mainly from the former warrior class, sought the preservation or restoration of the kingdom came to be known as the Gankoto Conservative Party, advocating restoration based on traditional ties with Qing China. In contrast, the Kaikato Progressive Party supported assimilation into Japan and modernization. Even within the ruling elite, the Udon, royal and high-ranking aristocratic families, opinions were divided. Some members of the Gankoto traveled to Qing China as so-called daseishin, defectors to Qing, where they petitioned the Qing government and foreign diplomats in an effort to restore the Ryukyu kingdom through diplomatic means. However, this movement was not a military uprising. Rather, it was primarily a campaign of appeals directed at the international community. In response, the Japanese government moved to solidify the sovereignty issue as a fait accompli through the Ryukyu disposition, while continuing diplomatic negotiations with Qing China. Domestically, it promoted assimilation policies through education and institutional reforms. It also ultimately rejected compromise proposals, such as the Kodokai movement, which sought to allow limited rule by the Sho family, and instead prioritized unification under a centralized state. After Qing China's defeat in the First Sino-Japanese War, the international backing that the conservative faction, Gankoto, and pro-Qing activists had relied upon disappeared, and the restoration movement rapidly declined. As a result, these efforts came to an end not as a true independence movement, but as a political movement led mainly by the former warrior class seeking the restoration of the old kingdom system. In this way, Japanese rule over Okinawa became firmly established. The Meiji government implemented policies that preserved old customs while favoring the former ruling classes. Because of this, it is said that a feudal atmosphere persisted until the late Meiji period. It is also suggested that this historical context allowed Motobu, despite being considered a troublemaker, to avoid being taken into custody by the authorities and to study under various prominent masters. Motobu honed his techniques through repeated real combat matches, kakidamishi. But according to a leading figure in Okinawan karate, Nagamine Shoshin, the following incident occurred. At one point, his opponent in such a match was Itosu Choiku, who was also known as a master of kakidamishi and was 5 or 6 years older than Choki. On that occasion, Choki was easily defeated and suffered a bitter loss. According to Nagamine, it was after this defeat that Motobu went on to study the kata, naihanchi, and pasai under Matsumura Kosaku of Tomari. While honing his kumite, sparring techniques through real combat, Motobu also spent many years researching kumite together with his close friend Yabu Kentsu, who belonged to the same Matsumura Itosu lineage, drawing on their own experiences. According to Nagamine, Motobu constantly grappled with challenges, such as how to deal with extraordinarily large and powerful opponents. The following is a story Nagamine said he heard directly from Motobu. There was once a giant man named Yoneshiro Magi in a certain village. At the time, he was the strongest Shima wrestler in Okinawa. Although Yamashiro, a 6th Dan judoka in Okinawa, was famous for his large build, Yoneshiro Magi was said to be far bigger than even him. Although not widely known, Okinawa has a grappling martial art called Shima, distinct from Ryukyu kobujutsu and karate. The use of a judo uniform likely began in the modern era. A defining feature of this martial art is that it starts from a clinched position. When Motobu was around 17 or 18 years old, he happened to have a chance to be in the same place as this Yoneshiro Magi. Seeing this as a rare opportunity to face the strongest and most powerful Shima wrestler in Okinawa, Motobu felt an urge to test a question he had long held. He approached Magi and said,
"Why don't we have a bout?"
However, Magi declined, saying it would be too presumptuous to wrestle with someone of Motobu's high status. Even so, Motobu persisted and Magi eventually relented. Magi then said,
"Now then, young lord, please take hold of my belt firmly in whatever way is easiest for you."
Motobu tried to wrap both arms around. Motobu tried to grab Magi's waist belt, but his opponent's girth was so rotund that he simply could not reach around it. Nevertheless, Motobu had trained his fists to be like iron. He was confident that if he struck his opponent's vital points with these fists while grappling, they would dig into those points and bring the opponent down. After allowing Motobu to take his preferred position, Magi asked,
"Are you ready, young lord?"
The moment he said,
"Here I go,"
he grabbed Motobu's belt from both sides and applied tremendous pressure. The force of the grip was so overwhelming that Motobu felt an intense pain as if his bones were being crushed, and he instinctively cried out,
I yield, I yield."
According to Okinawan customs at the time, all men wore their hair tied up. Motobu had long wondered what would happen if someone grabbed his hair from behind. To test this, he asked Magi to help and used himself as the subject. When his hair was seized, his body was lifted off the ground, and he was unable to do anything. Motobu later told Nagamine that through this experience, he came to understand a harsh reality. When there is a significant difference in strength or physique, it is not easy to overcome it even with karate techniques. In his later years, Motobu is said to have reflected as follows.
No matter how refined a kata may be or how skillful a technique is, both kata and technique have their limits. A smaller person must polish techniques suited to themselves to the utmost, and without being bound by form, develop a hand that can respond freely according to the situation, the moment, and the opponent. Otherwise, it is impossible to defeat an opponent with a great difference in strength.
This is said to have taken place around 1921. Having gone to Osaka for work, Motobu was employed as a security guard. One day, while off duty, he happened to visit Kyoto for leisure. There, he came across a boxing event advertising open to all challengers and decided to watch. A large foreigner stepped into the ring, and the announcer called out,
"Ladies and gentlemen, if anyone here is confident in their abilities, please come up to the ring. Anyone who defeats this foreigner will receive a cash prize."
Even after some time passed, no one stepped forward. At that point, Motobu entered the ring and challenged him. As the crowd's excitement grew louder, the two faced each other. The foreigner looked puzzled by the unfamiliar stance of this Oriental man, but more than anything, the difference in size was obvious. No one, not the foreigner nor the spectators, believed that the small-statured Motobu stood a chance. The foreigner in the ring clearly looked down on Motobu, swinging his arms loosely as he circled around. Sensing the disrespect but paying it no mind, Motobu calmly closed the distance. The match was decided in an instant. However, the audience could not understand what had happened. The one lying on the ring was the large man, while the small challenger stood as if nothing had occurred. The arena fell silent as if struck by stillness, then gradually erupted into a murmur.
What was that?
What just happened?
The spectators could not hide their astonishment. Motobu had struck the opponent's temple with a fist at lightning speed, but it was so fast that no one had been able to see it. This incident is said to have occurred when Motobu was around 52 or 53 years old. It's a well-known true story that, at a time when hardly anyone in mainland Japan had even heard of karate, its effectiveness in real combat was made known throughout the country. It is often said that his opponent in this match was a formidable white Russian boxer named John Kentel. However, according to Nagamine Shoshin, who heard the story directly from Motobu Choki himself, the actual opponent was an unknown professional boxer. In any case, this match brought the name Motobu no Saru into wide public recognition. Furthermore, in 1925, he was featured in a special article in Kodansha's magazine King, which catapulted his fame across the nation. Motobu later began teaching karate in the Kansai region, instructing figures such as Yamada Tatsuo, founder of Nippon Kempo Karateido, and Ueshima Sanosuke, founder of Kushin Ryu. Around this time, it is said he began referring to his style as Nihondan Ryu Heiho Motobu Kenpo. In those days, karate did not yet have formal schools or styles, and Motobu's is sometimes considered the oldest, though there are differing opinions, with some crediting Miyagi Chojun's Goju Ryu as the oldest. He also put up a sign reading Ryukyu Martial Art Tode, where he went on to instruct figures who would later become major leaders in the karate world, such as Hironori Otsuka, founder of Wado Ryu, Yasuhiro Konishi, founder of Shindo Jinen Ryu, and Shoshin Nagamine, founder of Shorin Ryu. It is also said that Toku Sanpo, a 9th Dan judoka of the Kodokan, would frequently drop by the Dodaikan dojo. As an aside, in 1912, he defeated 15 sailors from a Brazilian fleet who had challenged the Kodokan to matches. The incident became a political issue, and he was subsequently expelled from the Kodokan. In 1926, he published Okinawa Kenpo Karate Jutsu Kumite Hen, the first book in karate history dedicated to kumite, sparring. The 12 pre-arranged kumite drills presented in this work are the oldest known instructional examples of such drills still in existence. Karate gradually spread to universities in Tokyo as well, and at Toyo University, Motobu himself took on a teaching role. Kano Jigoro, the founder of Shotokan Judo and one of the highest authorities in Japanese martial arts at the time, spoke about Motobu's demonstration in a lecture at the Tokyo Higher Normal School 7 months after visiting Okinawa. The following is an excerpt from a 1927 summary of his speech published by the Kodokan Cultural Association.
When I recently visited Okinawa, I saw a man named Motobu strike and break a board that appeared to be 6 or 7 bu thick with his fist, and also easily break 2 stacked boards with the edge of his palm. In such a case, a skull could be split with a single blow. Considering this, randori must be conducted as it has been taught since the founding of the Kodokan, keeping distance from the opponent, seizing opportunities to capture and throw them. If one clings to the opponent and tries to twist them down, as is often done today, one's arms would quickly be struck and broken, and one's head shattered. Therefore, those who study judo as a martial art must devote great effort to the practice of atami, striking.
Motobu's demonstration appears to have been deeply shocking, and the book even includes illustrations assuming the use of strikes. Judo was created by removing dangerous techniques from traditional jujutsu and reforming its training system, from one where only a select few strong individuals became extraordinarily powerful, into one where anyone could safely become strong. From Kano's remarks after being struck by Motobu's demonstration, it can be inferred that he began to question the propriety of excluding atami, striking techniques, from jujutsu. Around 1932, the Oriental featherweight boxing champion Piston Horiguchi visited the Daidokan. When Motobu Choki told him,
"Don't hold back, come at me freely,"
he proceeded to evade all of Horiguchi's punches, then stepped in and thrust his fist to within a hair's breadth of Horiguchi's forehead. Horiguchi bowed and said,
"I admit defeat,"
lowering his guard. It is said that Motobu was already over 60 years old at the time. Because Motobu placed the greatest importance on actual combat, he was sometimes mocked as knowing only Naihanchi. However, he also taught his students other kata such as Pasai and Seisan. Additionally, it is said that he learned Chanan, the prototype of the Pinan kata, from Anko Itosu. According to Otsuka, the founder of Wado Ryu, Motobu was able to immediately answer any question regarding the applications and analysis of any kata. From this, it can be assumed that he was, in fact, well versed in the full range of kata. As Motobu's stay in Tokyo grew longer, he came to understand the state of karate there in depth. He is said to have remarked,
"It is gratifying that karate has developed in Tokyo as it has today. However, it is painful to watch the fine traditional kata passed down from old being broken down and carelessly altered. While my senior, Kento Yabu, is still alive, I would like to return home, investigate the classical kata, and bring them back to Tokyo."
This statement is often interpreted as a criticism of Gichin Funakoshi, who worked to spread karate in mainland Japan. It is said to have been made about 10 years after Funakoshi began teaching karate in Tokyo. There is no specific mention of exactly which kata Funakoshi modified or what changes he made. However, in his efforts to spread karate in mainland Japan, he changed the term Tode to karate and altered kata names from Okinawan pronunciations to mainland Japanese readings. These actions may have been one of the reasons why some of the older Okinawan masters, such as Motobu and Kanken Toyama, viewed him with disapproval. Nevertheless, Nagamine stated that if it was Gichin Funakoshi who systematized Okinawan karate into a formal discipline and spread it widely, then it was Choki Motobu who demonstrated karate's effectiveness as a martial art through actual combat, thereby making its true value known to the world. According to Shoshin Nagamine, Motobu Choki originally placed great importance on makiwara training. He would strike the makiwara with a keikoken, one-knuckle fist, using his entire body's power, much like how one would normally deliver a full-force straight punch, seiken. To land a strike, one must close distance with the opponent. However, when the distance becomes too tight, the effectiveness of a standard straight punch is restricted, making it difficult to generate full power. Motobu explained that in such extremely close range, techniques like the keikoken and uraken, back fist, are able to demonstrate their true effectiveness. Later, in the autumn of 1936, Motobu returned to Okinawa, where he visited various masters and gave detailed reports on the state of karate in mainland Japan. At the same time, he re-examined traditional kata and classical martial arts before returning to Tokyo. He went back to Okinawa again in the spring of 1939, but by then the situation was escalating from the Manchurian incident toward the Pacific War. Wishing to be laid to rest in his homeland, he chose to remain in Okinawa. In August 1944, in Naha City, he passed away at the age of 74. The following year, Okinawa became the site of the only ground battle fought on Japanese soil during the Pacific War, resulting in over 94,000 deaths and leading to 27 years of U.S. administration. Today, his karate is not counted among the 4 major styles of mainland Japan. This may be because he never had the intention of expanding his teachings into a large, organized school. The 4 major styles in mainland Japan are Gojuryu, Shitoryu, Wadoryu, Shotokan, founded by Gichin Funakoshi. Although Funakoshi was not originally as renowned in Okinawa as figures like Kenwa Mabuni, Kanken Toyama, or Chojun Miyagi, he had a clear goal from the beginning: to spread karate in mainland Japan. The name Shotokan was not coined by Funakoshi himself but by his students. His adaptations, such as changing the characters Dode, Chinese hand, to karate, empty hand, and altering kata names into mainland-style readings, were readily accepted by Japanese society, allowing his school to grow significantly. Originally, when karate was introduced into Okinawan school education, the reading karate was standardized, even though karate literally referred to martial arts from China. While it is commonly said that the character kara, empty, was adopted on the advice of a monk close to Funakoshi, another theory suggests that, given Japan and China were adversaries at the time, the change was made to remove Chinese connotations. Both Chojun Miyagi and Kenwa Mabuni received official titles from the Dai Nippon Butokukai, which may have contributed to the growth of their schools. Funakoshi was also later awarded a title. The reason he never received such a title remains unclear, though his student Hironori Otsuka did receive one. Although he did not leave behind a large institutionalized school in mainland Japan, his emphasis on practical fighting was passed down through his students. In addition to Otsuka, who introduced structured kumite, prearranged sparring, Tatsuo Yamada, founder of Nippon Kenpo Karate-Do, became the first in Japan to implement direct strike matches using gloves without protective armor. In 1962, Yamada held an event at Korakuen Hall under the name The First Karate Tournament. It adopted rules such as knockouts, weight classes, and the use of gloves. Although it was a pioneering attempt that preceded later kickboxing and full-contact karate, the times had not yet caught up with Yamada, and the event ended in failure. The following year, a Japanese promoter approached Tatsuo Yamada and Masutatsu Oyama of the Oyama Dojo, who was then rising to prominence for his practical karate, with a plan to hold matches against Muay Thai fighters. As a result, 3 fighters from the Oyama Dojo, Kenji Kurosaki, Tadashi Nakamura, and Akio Fujihira, competed in Bangkok, Thailand, winning 2 out of 3 matches. This bout is considered the beginning of kickboxing, but its roots can be traced back to Yamada. Without the glove karate of Tatsuo Yamada, a senior student of Motobu, it is possible that this match itself would never have taken place, and even that the sport of kickboxing might never have been born. Today, kickboxing is popular worldwide, and within it lies the DNA of the practical karate that Motobu pursued.
Japan B is a channel that randomly shares information about lesser-known aspects of Japanese culture, spanning across various genres.